Donald Trump is taking advantage of America's Achilles heel to wreak havoc. He shut down the systems that are supposed to stop corruption and fraud in our government. He's firing the people in charge of making sure that you don't get scammed in crypto or by big banks. He's decimating American farmers because he stopped the federal government from buying the food that we used to produce and used to send to starving people overseas so that they'd live and think of the United States as a friend. And maybe worst of all, the courts are telling him that everything he's doing is illegal and he has to stop, and he's just ignoring it. He's breaking the Constitution. Why is he able to get away with all this? Ann Kim of Washington Monthly argues in this short video that ultimately, the fault is not in our stars, but ourselves. The fact that so many Americans have no idea what the Constitution says, how our government is actually supposed to work, and what the president is actually allowed to do is the core weakness that sets the table for everything Trump is getting away with right now. It's the reason he got into power, and it's the reason he's able to abuse that power. It's a surprisingly compelling argument. Take a look and see for yourself.
At the end of the Constitutional Convention in 1787, a bystander asked Benjamin Franklin what kind of government the United States was going to have, a republic or a monarchy. His response was a famous one: a republic, if you can keep it. Of course, it helps to know what a republic is, and unfortunately, far too many Americans don't. So here's a pop quiz. What percentage of Americans do you think can name all three branches of government? Here's the answer: just 2 in 3. 15% of Americans could not name a single branch of government, according to a survey by the Annenberg School of Public Policy last year. The problem is that kids don't get civic education anymore, and that has led to dangerous levels of political illiteracy. As a result, we could be sleepwalking our way out of a democracy. Here's another pop quiz. What percentage of college students incorrectly think that United States senators serve only a 4-year term? Here's the answer: nearly 1/3. In fact, just 12% of college students know that senators serve for 6 years and the House of Representatives for 2. More dismal results from this survey, which is from the American Council of Trustees and Alumni. 63% of college students did not know that John Roberts is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and only 1/3 knew that the 13th Amendment abolished slavery. 9 in 10, however, know that Jeff Bezos owns Amazon. Here's why civics knowledge is so low. Just 9 states and the District of Columbia require 1 year of civic education. 30 states require only half a year, and 11 states require no civic education at all. The National Assessment of Educational Progress, better known as NAEP, or the Nation's Report Card, finds that just 22% of 8th graders are proficient in civics. Not knowing the basics about our government can have serious consequences. First, the lack of civic engagement means lower civic participation. In 2024, 88 million Americans eligible to vote stayed home. Among young voters ages 18 to 29, the turnout was just 42%. Or to put it another way, the number of people who didn't vote outnumbered the people who voted for Trump by 11 million. The 2024 election could have gone differently if more people had chosen to vote. The second and more serious consequence of civic illiteracy is that Americans won't recognize authoritarianism when they see it. Vice President J.D. Vance, for example, recently tweeted that judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. That, of course, isn't true. Under our Constitution's system of checks and balances, the job of the judiciary is to check the power of the president and Congress. In a landmark Supreme Court case called Marbury v. Madison from 1803, the Supreme Court declared that, quote, "It is emphatically the province and duty of the judicial department to say what the law is." Dictators often use ignorance as a tool of oppression. It's the #1 tactic in the authoritarian playbook. And ignorance about the proper role of government allows wannabe autocrats to steal our rights from us without even knowing. Another one of our founding fathers, James Madison, said that a popular government without popular information or the means of acquiring it is a prologue to a farce or a tragedy, perhaps both. But he also said, knowledge will forever govern ignorance, and a people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power which knowledge gives. Now might be the time for Americans to arm themselves with the knowledge of what a republic means and how to keep it. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe.